introduction of my bill alone has convinced two companies, Siemens AG and ABB, to suspend their business operations in the Sudan because of this contracting requirement, which is a positive step in the right direction. Let me be very clear, though. Companies that do not support the government of Sudan or the government-backed militias, or that are working for peace and security or providing humanitarian assistance in Darfur will be exempted from this requirement. We want to get at those who are the worst offenders in the Sudan. By and large, those companies that are engaged in, of course, the petrochemical and natural resource extraction industries and rely on government complicity to allow them to operate. My bill would also charge the Government Accountability Office with investigating the investments made by the Federal Retirement Thrift Investment Board, which manages a pension plan for 3.6 million people with over $186 billion in assets. I don't believe the American people, especially federal employees, want their blood on the hands of those who are getting killed in Darfur. Think about the potential impact that $186 billion could have on the marketplace. That would be a huge accomplishment and would guarantee to all of our federal government employees that their savings and their pension funds will not be used to fund genocide. We have a moral obligation to do everything in our power to end the genocide in Darfur, and we have a fiduciary responsibility also, and this is not a partisan issue. Currently, we have over 80 co-sponsors on the DADA bill, and I'm willing to work with the committee, Mr. Chairman, and members on both sides of the aisle to move this legislation forward. I'm open to any suggestions to strengthen it. The bottom line is that we must keep up the pressure on the Khartoum government in any way we can. We must insist on real political settlement, a peace agreement that goes far beyond the May 6 agreement, and we must ensure that Darfurians can return home to their villages and reclaim their lives. We must bring the perpetrators of the state-sponsored genocide to justice. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to answering any questions.
Thank you. And now we have our distinguished and dear friend, Congressman Frank Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank Congresswoman Lee and Congressman Payne for their efforts on this. I've been to Sudan 5 times. Sam Brownback and I led the first group that went in there back in the summer of 2004. I think everything that Congresswoman Lee said, there's not much more that you can say. These people have been living in camps sometimes for almost 4 years, 900 calories a day, 1,000 calories a day, no medicine, human feces, animal feces all over the place. And this institution that we're all honored to be part of has talked a lot about this, but really, fundamentally, and I can get into it on everything from the Hind helicopters coming in, the Antonov bombers bombing, the John Jaweed outside coming in and shouting and hollering, and they hang around the camps all morning, early in the morning when the women go out to the camps. They rape the women, and the UN has done fundamentally nothing. China's blocked in the Security Council, so I'm not even going to read my statement. What she says is true. It's the only thing that made the difference with regard to South Africa. You ought to report this bill out, get it on the floor, bring it up on the suspension. Anyone who's prepared to vote no, let them vote no. Get it over to the Senate, but we have really done a lot of talk. It was 3 years ago. The Congress called it genocide. Secretary Powell called it genocide. President Bush called it genocide. And in reality, life is no better, and in some respects even worse, because if you've been in a camp for 3 to 3.5 years, your system's down, your children haven't had any education, you've had death and everything else. So I think the sanction issue is the only issue. The diplomatic efforts has pretty much failed. President Bush has appointed Andrew Natsios. Andrew's doing a good job, working his heart out trying, but overall diplomacy has failed. And other than Barbara Lee's idea, there is nothing facing this Congress that will really bring this thing to a conclusion. So I'll submit my statement, and I support the passage of the bill quickly because, again, it's been going on now for 4 years.
Thank you so much, Congressman Wolf. Congressman Donald Payne is a recognized expert on African issues and a distinguished member of the House Committee on Foreign Affairs, where he is now chairman of the Subcommittee on Africa and Global Health. Mr. Payne was a driving force behind the passage of a resolution declaring genocide in Darfur, and we ask him to please give us his statement. We're so happy to have him here this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member. It's a pleasure to be here before your subcommittee, and I appreciate the opportunity to have some comments on this very timely issue, very important, of the divestment of public funds from entities doing business with Sudan. Let me begin by commending Representative Lee for this legislation. She was a very valued member of the Africa Subcommittee until her ascension, I guess, to the Appropriations Committee. And we do appreciate the work that she continues to do. Of course, there is no greater champion on Sudan than Congressman Wolf. He has been fighting the battle of Sudan even before I came to Congress. He worked on the North-South situation where for 21 years there was a civil war that 2 million people died, 4 million people were displaced, but Congressman Wolf was there the entire time pushing for which finally became the Comprehensive Peace Agreement. And there's no person who has done more over the period of time than he has, and he has current legislation that will have an institute on agriculture named after the late Dr. John Garang, who actually fought for 21 years to have Sudan recognize the rights of the people of the South, fought for 21 years and was killed in a helicopter crash mysteriously 21 days after the agreement was signed and the new government went into effect. So we have a lot of tragedy in the story of Sudan, but we have to continue. As it was mentioned in 2004, I, along with others, introduced a resolution calling the violence in Darfur by its rightful name, genocide, and calling on the international community to take action to stop it. Congresswoman Barbara Lee must certainly be commended for her work on divestment. Her bill, the Darfur Accountability and Divestment Act of 2007, is critical to the fight to end genocide in Darfur. Included in the bill is language which would protect states who divest from legal action. State Senator Jackie Collins championed divestment legislation in Illinois has been mentioned. However, the National Foreign Trade Council, a Chicago-based group for Mr. Chairman, filed suit against the state of Illinois and actually won their case earlier this month. Many states would face the same fate without the Lee bill.